Welcome, and welcome back to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, March 11th, 2021, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And today, we're going to dive back into the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide and have a quick look at non-professional and secondary skills. It's all part of the same section, and it's a hoot. Player character non-professional skills, as well as the secondary skills table, are part of that same section. Let's see if we can bring it up over here. Yeah, there it is. It is page 12 in the DMG. And we'll just have a little look at it here. Let's see if we can slide me over just a little bit there. Got a GaryCon shirt on. GaryCon coming up at the end of the month. I think my schedule's all ready. I talked about that on Monday. Check out that video if you're interested in looking over what's available from me. I'll be running a couple first edition games, and we'll get a Game of Divine right in this year. Not sure what I'll play in yet. As a elemental, not an elemental, as a silver, what's normally called a silver badge holder. I'll be signing up for what games I can get on the 17th, 8 p.m. Central. That's next Wednesday. It's also St. Patty's Day, huh? Boy, that's right in the middle of the evening on St. Patty's Day. That's going to be tricky for some people, I imagine. Particularly the Irish Americans amongst us who enjoy getting together with people on that day, although with the pandemic raging on, continuing to rage on throughout the world, at least for a few more months. We're going to see what happens with that. Might be kind of tricky. But let's take a look at player character non-professional skills. When a player character selects a class, fighter, magic user, thief, whatever, cleric, this profession is assumed to be that which the character has been following previously, virtually to the exclusion of all other activities. Thus, the particular individual is at first level of ability. However, some minor knowledge of certain mundane skills might belong to the player character. Information and training from early years or incidentally picked up while the individual was in apprenticeship learning his or her primary professional skills of clericism, fighting, etc. etc. If your particular campaign is aimed at a level of play where secondary skills can be taken into account, then use of the table below is to assign them to player characters or even to henchmen if you so desire. So Gary and company were fully cognizant of the idea that the game is not a game of papers and paychecks. It wasn't really generally designed for non-adventuring, but he understood that some people like to role play. They like to play up these kind of secondary skills or other professions outside of the character classes in their downtime or as a part of their background material for the character. So we wanted to create some opportunities here for that to be available, at least in a kind of a tertiary sense, or even to be brought to the fore for role-playing purposes. He continues, assign a skill randomly or select according to the background of your campaign to determine If a second skill is known, roll on the table. If the dice indicate a result of 2 skills, then assign a second appropriate one. So let's look at that secondary skills table. Well, we can get it all on there. Die score on the left, it's a percentage die roll if you're doing it randomly. It includes results such as armorer, bowyer flexurer, somebody who makes bows and arrows, farmer, gardener, fisher, parentheses, netting, forester, gambler, hunter/fisher, hook and line, husbandman, for animal husbandry, somebody who raises or takes care of animals, jeweler, lapidary, somebody who works at making fine jewelry out of, sometimes with gems made out of raw materials, leather worker / tanner, limner / painter, mason / carpenter, miner, navigator, fresh or saltwater. Now, some might take that or the next one to mean you could do both, but I think the idea is you should go with one or the other, as they are different sets of skills. Sailor, same, fresh or salt, water. Shipwright, boats or ships, that's small vessels or large ships with sails and maybe galleys even. Tailor, weaver. Teamster, freighter. Trader, barterer. Trapper, furrier. Woodworker / cabinet maker. 68 to 85% is no skill of measurable worth. That is, you may have been involved in something, but just really didn't pick up anything beyond what anybody might be able to discern from those things. Or you were just involved in an unskilled labor type of position when prior to your apprenticeship in fighting the priesthood, thieving, or in wizardry, if you're a magic user. Or, of course, the subsets or subclasses apply to each of those top headers. 86 to 100. Roll twice, ignoring this result hereafter. So you're not supposed to explode with the dice here. You keep rolling 86 to 100. It winds up not counting. Now, it doesn't say roll over, it just says to ignore the result. So I think the assumption is if you roll twice more and both of them come up 86 to 100, keep rolling. You go with no skill of measurable worth. So a lot of these can result in some useful adventurer knowledge. Let's read the last part before we come back to the table. You'll see here, starting level of experience is the next section. We'll read on. When secondary skills are used, it is up to the DM to create and/or adjudicate situations in which these skills are used or useful to the player character. As a general rule, having a skill will give the character the ability to determine the general worth and soundness of an item, the ability to find food, make small repairs, or actually construct (crude) items. You're not meant to be a master at any of these skills. You haven't been in it all your life. These are things that you know a smattering of information within that particular skill set. For example, Gary says, an individual with armorer skill could tell the quality of normal armor, repair chain links, or perhaps fashion certain weapons. It's interesting that he throws weaponry under armors, but it works. To determine the extent of knowledge in question, simply assume the role of one of these skills, one that you know a little something about, and determine what could be done with this knowledge. Use this as a scale to weigh the relative ability of characters with secondary skills. So again, just supposed to have a kind of a passing knowledge. There's a parenthetical at the end that says, see also the campaign, social class, and rank in AD&D, because there is the possibility that if you are of noble birth, you might have some secondary knowledge in maybe heraldry or just in historical facts about an area because you know of the people that were the rulers in that area. So there are some other ways of gaining some knowledge or having some kind of cursory knowledge that might be useful to you in your adventuring career. Armorer, he talks about that in the example. Boy or flexurer, well, maybe you can put together some arrows from bits and pieces. But again, these are crude items, so maybe they'll do in a pinch to get an arrow off, maybe with a minus. It's a cheap arrow. Maybe it can only be used once if you're running out of ammo and you need to be able to fashion something quickly in a desperate situation. Farmer, gardener, you might be more aware than others of what crops are planted in a given area. Gardening, maybe you can pick up on some knowledge of plants. You're no druid, but some random knowledge. Fishing, netting, and of course a little further down, hunting, fisher. These are ways that a character, an adventurer, might be able to find some food in a pinch, or capture some food, or catch some fish, or hunt, or even possibly do a little tracking of animals in the best of circumstances, wet ground, recently rained, that sort of thing. But it really shouldn't supplant the skills that a ranger has, for instance, in tracking. You don't want somebody with just a secondary skill in this sort of thing to be able to outshine the ranger as a full-fledged player character class. Forester, maybe you're good at identifying trees and whatnot, or possibly being more skilled at passing through areas that are forested. Gambler, of course, well, again, this is a secondary skill. This doesn't make you an expert gambler. Maybe with one particular game you're decently good at it or know the rules, so you're not an entire greenhorn. You can be taught other games because you have a general sense of how gaming and gambling works. You might be able to have some knowledge of where a casino is within a larger town, or perhaps you know where there is a back alley game going on that you can get into and possibly risk some of your adventuring wealth to try to grow it in some way. Jewelry, lapidary, there's a decent one for being able to spot the particular. Hey, Misty, welcome. Falkirk Gary, how you doing? You might be able to identify uh, some jewelry as being more expensive or better made than others, but maybe not be able to put an exact gold piece value figure on certain works. Leather work, tanner, maybe you can make some minor repairs in leather armor, or possibly if you have been hunting or someone else has been hunting, you can at least dress the skin so it isn't going to rot away before you get back to town and have something made from it. Limner painter, pretty good at drawing, pretty good at maybe not cartography, but you can maybe do decent drawings. If someone's, let's say, in town has asked you to identify somebody who you saw while out on an adventure, perhaps you could do a quick sketch of them or get some paints and put a identifying poster or picture together. Mason, carpenter, odd that those are together, but I guess it's one or the other. Perhaps there's a way to be useful in identifying works within a dungeon. Be able to tell how old some stonework is by the degradation of the masonry there. Carpenter might be able to put something together real quick if you need to make a barricade or something along that order. Miner might be able to identify some of the features down in a mine or understand how the layout might be and where to look for lost veins that maybe aren't all tapped out, and be able to spot those or be able to know where digging was or where it might best be done. Maybe you can be helpful in shoring up a passageway that has been collapsed if you need to clear it and then brace what's there so that it doesn't come down on your heads again. Navigator, sailor, shipwright, all good if you've got some waterbound campaigns. Falkirk Harry, yeah, we're looking into DMG. Yep, this is page 12. Scottish Jeff, hey, Mr. McKay, how you doing, buddy? You got some really nice works coming out there, or events coming up that you're working on. You should post about those in the OK Grognard Facebook group. Let people know when they can come watch that stuff, or if there's seats available. Feel free to try to scrounge up some extra players in that group as well. Taylor Weaver, maybe you can make some repairs on some torn garments or whatnot. Put some stuff together. Fashion some warmer cloaks in the or warmer clothes in a cold weather environment if you weren't equipped in the first place. Teamster freighters, good with carts, wagons, handling them. More people is always a good thing for any events you're running, right? Trader barterer, maybe you got a little edge when you're talking to people. You know the language of merchants, and it can be helpful when attempting to cut a deal with somebody while you're in town, taking that hard-earned adventuring wealth and turning it into some useful items for future adventuring or whatnot. Trapper furrier, again, possibly good for feeding yourself, but also useful for identifying the values or higher valued furs and stuff like that. Woodworker, cabinet maker. And here's another thing too. What if you're searching through an area that has a lot of cabinets or chests or whatnot, and you're having some trouble wondering if there are any secret compartments or whatnot? Maybe you got a little help there from having this kind of knowledge. And that takes us down to no skills of measurable worth. Doesn't mean you can't man a shovel if you're trying to clear a collapsed passage. So keep that in mind. If everyone else is popping off about how great their secondary skills are, you can always mention that you're a little better at that sort of thing, digging or whatnot, because you have experience outside of this list of skills and you want to ask the DM if we can put something together. Because that's a pretty big range. You got 17 of your 100 that are no skill of measurable worth, and then another 5 up on top for the roll again or roll twice, which is fun. Scottish Jeff says a lot of these skills get overlooked, but good role playing makes them fun. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for a lot of gamers, you got to be careful not to get lost in the weeds when it comes to this, because especially if you're running a large group, you don't want somebody dialing in too hard on one particular skill and overusing it to the point where where they're coming off as if they have an expert's knowledge in these things. These are, once again, as it says at the top, the particular individual is a first level ability because they have been following previously virtually to the exclusion of all other activities in their apprenticeship as a fighter, cleric, thief, magic user, or subclass thereof. And once again, I'll read that last little bit. Training from early years incidentally picked up these secondary skills, while the individual was in apprenticeship learning his or her primary skills. But again, if your particular campaign is aimed at a level of play where secondary skills can be taken into account, use the table. Let people have a little something. Get a little some pluses or minuses for some minor efforts. And as always, let people play those characters and let them come up with ways of bringing these skills the works when running adventures. You never know. People can surprise you with their inventiveness. Scottish Jeff also says, I actually had a character teach someone how to ride a horse. There you go. There's certainly possibilities where somebody who has no knowledge of something like that and somebody with a second skill of animal husbandry might be able to help them out. Teach them how to put a saddle on. Teach them how to ride without falling off. At least they won't uh, they won't be an expert rider, but at least they can keep up with the group and not slow everyone down. So, Rick, how you doing? Good to see you. And well, that's about it for this. It's a short section. It's an interesting one. If you ever get a hold of a second edition players, I believe in the player's handbook they have a much more extensive list of secondary skills. And in second edition, that whole skills idea is a little more to the fore. Of course, once you get into third edition and later, Pathfinder, games like that, then there's a whole skills section for every single character, and you can place points that you gain each level in the various skills depending on what you want your array of abilities to be. Most of that's done through roleplay in first edition and original, and even in basic and games that use the rule cyclopedia. So it's a lot more freeform, and people can do as they want. But these kind of tables help give some ideas to the players who are often struggling to come up with ways of role playing, especially if they're new players. It gives them something to key on, something to look at as a way of expanding their awareness of what their character is and where they come from and what they might have seen prior to the game beginning. Well, I'll tell you, we're almost at that time. I want to remind people once again, GaryCon event submissions are done. They've started to do event registration. At least by the 17th, everybody will be able to, 8 o'clock on next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central, we'll be able to start registering for events. So keep that in mind. I hope people had a good GM's Day. Did your players from your virtual games or perhaps from your hibernating games get in contact with you and let you know how much you are beloved as a GM? I hope so. It's a thankless job most of the time. Hopefully, people are kind enough to at least give you a little pat on the back or a a warm fuzzy, an attaboy, a little something for the effort. Looking forward to Gary Kahn, says Jeff. Yep, likewise. Hey, Sarah, good to see you there. Is that a... I don't know, emoticon of a... well, I can't tell what that is. Almost looks like a Tasmanian devil or something. Well, I will just leave it at that. And I will say thanks to everybody for popping into the channel today. If you popped in and you're not already following the channel, please do. Helps it out, keeps things lively. Please do jump into the stream chat while we got a show going. It's always fun to participate. If you are catching up with this on YouTube, then by all means, please do subscribe to the channel over there. I record the show on Mondays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central, and subsequently upload it to YouTube, usually within the hour. And you can watch old shows over there where they're archived. If you do, please subscribe to the channel, as I said, and also give a little thumbs up to any videos you watch and enjoy. Feel free to leave a comment. Make sure when you subscribe, you click on the little ringy-dingy bell there, and you will get notifications when new shows are loaded up to YouTube, and then you won't miss a single thing. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva. I want to thank Falkirk Harry, Scottish Jeff, Rick and Misty and Sarah. Did I miss anybody? Who else chimed in today? I think that's everybody. We'll catch you again next time, and we will be back on Monday. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and bye-bye.